Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle, the wrestling video podcast I run over here on youtube.com/GodSaw, and it is March the 3rd, 2019. I actually am going to be recording this on March the 2nd, but by the time you guys see this, it will be March the 3rd, and it's been a very interesting week inside of wrestling. There is a decent amount of news to really go through this week, so we will definitely be going through that one. I am going to be starting off with what I missed last week. The main thing that I missed last week, which was DX getting inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. That did get announced last week. I did miss that on last week's podcast, which was kind of on me. So this essentially makes Shawn Michaels the second two-time Hall of Famer behind Ric Flair in there to go along with that. But not only that, it's everybody from DX. Well, almost everybody. Almost everybody on that one. So the people that will technically be inducted as DX will be Shawn Michaels, Triple H, X-Pac, Road Dogg, and Billy Gunn. And also, they are going to do, they did include her into this. It will be the ninth wonder of the world, China. That is something that people have been kind of clamoring for quite a bit of time. And let's not beat around the bush on this one. This is a character China is more than capable of being in there on her own based off of her merits in her career into the WWE Hall of Fame on her own induction. But here's the good kicker about it. The one good kicker about it, because it's unfortunate she won't be there to actually be there in person to accept anything and also to be able to give a speech or anything to go along with that. Instead of us having one person up there talking extremely nice about her, you're gonna have pretty much all five of them probably say something in an extremely good fashion and everything to go along with that. It's been said for a long period of time, even by Triple H, saying is like, you know, she's deserved to go in. That's the main aspect of this, is that she is going in. Now, there is one notable what is it? Person being left out, and because they were a member for DX for a short period of time, that would be Ravishing Rick Rude. He's not going to be into the Hall of Fame with that group. I don't think he's actually been inducted by himself either. To go along with that, so he is one notable person missing from the DX being inducted. But the main thing on this one is that they are actually inducting China into the Hall of Fame, which I think is a very good thing to go along with that. But as a person who's seen the careers and everything to go along with that, she's definitely warranted to go in on her own. But in this case, you know, they've danced around that subject of inducting her into the Hall of Fame for so long. It's kind of we can take what we can get here, because she's being included into the WWE Hall of Fame as a member of the Generation X. Hopefully, maybe down the line, they'll do a full induction for her as an individual to go along with it, but that only time will tell on that one. Another one that also got introduced as a induction for this year is going to be Honky Tonk Man. I believe they had CBS News CBS.com technically break the news that he was going to be as part of the Hall of Fame. So Honky Tonk Man is another interesting one on that of him kind of mocking the Hall of Fame a long time ago. But now it looks like he's going to be going into it. They have definitely decided that he's going in at this point in time. Now, we all know that there's no real criteria for getting into the WWE Hall of Fame. They don't have like a particular criteria or anything. The criteria is basically, does Vince want you in it? That's really the criteria. Does Vince want you in it? Will you be willing to come to make a speech? Okay. You had a good career? All right, that's good. Let's go. So it basically is going to go off to potentially show what are they going to go with down the line on this particular one. They usually have kind of a, I wouldn't say quota, but they would have more of what they traditionally do on a yearly basis. They traditionally have like a team or a faction go in, such as DX this year. I don't know where Honky Tonk Man would necessarily go with that one. Well, he was former IC champion, everything to go along with that. I mean, he had a very good career with WWE, but and he still holds the longest IC title run. I forget the number of days, but it was basically 64 weeks or something around that time frame. So he definitely had they definitely had that, and like his career probably warrants it. And they also had him release a single. They did a lot with Honky Tonk Man in general. So in the terms of his career, it's definitely warranted. And of course, WWE usually inducts a female every year. I don't know if that technically goes for them having China as part of DX on that one. I think they're going to have an individual one this year with that. Who knows if they'll do another tag team? And of course, they usually have a big one, though they'll probably usually the first one that they announce for the induction is going to be like the last one that goes up. So the more than likely that would be the case, unless of course there's something that they have for an even bigger thing for the Hall of Fame this year, because it is technically going up against the actual New Japan Ring of Honor show that's going to be held at Madison Square Garden. They're going to be held on the same night. They moved NXT TakeOver to Friday, so they're going to have to put up the ring, tear down the ring, then put back up the ring again, because you have TakeOver on Friday, you have the Hall of Fame on Saturday, and then you will have Monday Night Raw and SmackDown the next two nights after WrestleMania. So the ring crew is going to have a good chunk of extra work to go ahead and do this time, because they're going to have to put up the ring, tear down the ring, then put the ring back up again. So that should be, I guess, that will be a thing for the ring crew on that one, unfortunately, with that side of everything. But other sides of the WWE news, there was a rumor going about, and it's been kind of confirmed. A lot of different websites were announcing this throughout the week, and that is the location for WrestleMania 36. It's rumored to be in Tampa, Florida. So they will be going back to Florida once again with that. So at least that's what the initial rumor is. I don't think they've made a full announcement on it. Obviously, usually when the websites, like a lot of the wrestling websites, bring up the next year's WrestleMania, they're pretty spot on. They're pretty spot on about it, and this one is still rumored, but not fully announced, but more than likely going to happen unless something else goes a little bit awry on it. So throughout this week, because there's a couple other little news bits to go through. This one was released on Cultaholic, and also you can actually confirm it as well through the Something to Wrestle With podcast as well. Is that, at least for the time being, with everything, obviously, as they put it in that show, plans can change, or anything to go along with it. But it looks like the Something to Wrestle With podcast is going to continue on. Now, the main thing about that is that, well, with Bruce Pritchard's new position being in creative in the WWE, and he kind of lays it out in the podcast as well, is saying that it might not be as crazy as what people were initially going with. It may not be Vince's right-hand man again or anything to go along with that, but he's definitely going to be part of the creative process, working with everything. It was announced as it being as important as possible last week. And Cultaholic released, or at least I got this one initially from Cultaholic. That's where the first one I saw for it. where that it was basically they said, it's going to keep going. They plan on doing it. Both Bruce Pritchard and Cameron Thompson will plan forward to keep doing something to wrestle with. Now, the main thing is that their live shows. Their live events that they traditionally do. So the thing that they announced also on the not on Cultaholic, but on the Something to Wrestle With podcast was, well, they had that they still are going to do the live events that they have left, and I think they go all the way up to Starcast 2. So they are still going to be doing those, Bruce Pritchard, Cameron Thompson, and whomever the other guests are going to be. But more than likely, the live events afterwards, after that time frame, will either be lessened or they won't happen at all, based upon more than likely his schedule over at WWE. They still plan on releasing the podcast on a weekly basis for everybody to listen to, and everything on that one. So everything, at least for the time being, is going to move forward and is going to continue on, probably up until the point that Vince McMahon either gets really angry at the fact that he's doing it and talking that much, or completely changes his mind on what is going on with the podcast to go along with it, and the factor that Bruce is also working with WWE at the time. So more than likely, that's probably the scenario, but otherwise, it looks like Something to Wrestle With is going to continue on for people who are fans of that. I am definitely a fan of it. I've listened to a good chunk of those podcasts. There's a bunch of them in the backlog that I've not listened to, and might go forward and listening to them down the line, but we'll definitely see on that one. Another thing that went on this week is that apparently we have an NXT star, a big NXT star, dealing with a reported neck injury, and it could be serious. And that is going to actually be the NXT champion, Tommaso Ciampa. Apparently, he has been reportedly dealing with a neck injury that could be as severe as it being spinal stenosis, which would mean that he would need to go into surgery to get that fixed. And for the record on that one, was spinal stenosis. That is the neck injury that got Stone Cold Steve Austin and Edge, and had them retire. Now, it's no area of saying that Tommaso Ciampa may have to be forced to retire on this one, but it could be that bad. This was reported by PW Insider throughout the week, and then everyone was kind of following up on that, and then the severity of it kind of came out a little bit more throughout that week, and that's where it could be. There's reports that he's trying to work through it and trying to get through NXT TakeOver that will be in New York, in the Brooklyn area during WrestleMania weekend. But it is not looking good for Tommaso Ciampa at this time, at this moment, with that one. Hopefully, like with everything, hopefully the neck injury is not as bad as it's initially reported, and it's something that he can work. It's something that he won't need to go in for surgery for. Hopefully, it would be like, okay, get to WrestleMania weekend. Afterwards, we're going to kind of rest you for a bit to let you heal, and then he can come back. And without any type of surgery or anything to go along with that. It's also, it was reported a long time ago, but also someone else who had been kind of going through that as well has been Sheamus, who's been working through it for been working through this whole bit with reported neck injury of his own as well, for months and months and months and months and months. He's been, it wasn't to a severity point on him that he was forced to go into surgery or anything to go along with that. Hopefully, again, for Tommaso Ciampa's sake, he doesn't have to go under surgery. It's something that's like, hey, here's some rest for a period of time, come back when it's all good, and everything to go along with that. That's what is more the hopeful, but it's not necessarily looking that good at this point in time, at least on that side. So, another thing that happened this week, and this was an interesting one, and this one ended up not making WWE too thrilled, at least reportedly too thrilled about it. So Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey, of course, were at it again on Twitter, as they typically have been over the last number of weeks and months. They've been kind of having a back and forth, everything to go along with that, and they might... Well, it was reported that WWE wasn't too thrilled about their most recent exchange. So the kind of sum up the context without bringing up the full tweets and everything, because they're still out there. They have not taken them down or anything to go along with it. So they're still out there. They did their normal Twitter banter, everything to go along with it. Eventually got to the point that Ronda kind of pokes fun at Becky Lynch's armbar and the way that it looks. So in basic terms, it's like she called it a nonsensical armbar that looks fake and everything to go along with that. And also, I think she makes it, and then Becky responds with, like, keep the F word out of this, learn to be better at this business that you're just getting into. So they kind of go a little bit off the kayfabe side on the Twitter. That's where it's pretty much stayed on the kayfabe side of everything for the Twitter side of it, the Twitter side, and everything to go along with it on what they've been trash talking throughout this entire time. It then eventually goes to the point it's like, keep the F word out of this, and it's like, you mean fake? And then she makes mention to the armbar that Becky, the disarmer, that Becky Lynch has, as her looking like she's holding the like a metaphorical dick of the size of the dick that she thinks she would have on that one. Well, Becky responded. Was like, never looked at it that way, but you know what? You're kind of right. And she had and then on there, she took the same picture, but then plastered Ronda Rousey's husband's face on the arm to go along with it. On that one, which of course Ronda responded with, in the end, it's like, I don't care what the script says, the next time I see you, I'm going to beat the out of you. So apparently WWE is not too thrilled about that, which at least not the social media team is too thrilled about it, because, well, they do like to use Twitter exchanges and everything that go on there to use them for part of the show. Obviously, for this side of everything, since they're PG, they can't technically use any of that on that one. It was a pretty hilarious Twitter exchange between the two of them. Now, don't get me wrong, they've been pretty hilarious to begin with on this one. Like, the trash talk between the both of them has actually been pretty good. And then and to go along with that, and because they don't do a lot of that trash talking side right now on TV, because they're doing the suspension angle, and they so it keeps going over there. Like, Becky released the pictures that week where she apparently got her mugshot done, which apparently those are getting sold on WWE Shop right now, to go along with that. So apparently they're going, it's like, yeah, we'll sell t-shirts and everything. And Becky responds is like, yeah, sure, I do need to be reimbursed for the bail money somehow, type of thing. So, like, little quips like that. I did like how she made mention there is like, she tells Ronda to go pick up the belt again, and we'll talk about that on when we get to Raw and SmackDown this week with that. And it was kind of crazy with what they decided to go with in that side, on that side of everything, and the back and forth between them is pretty interesting, to say the least. But based off of what they did on this one, of course, WWE technically could not really use these on the show because, well, they kind of went on a little tirade on that one. So WWE was apparently not too thrilled. Then there's been more reports that Ronda's extremely frustrated with backstage and everything to go along with that. I feel like they're just working everyone, in all fairness to it, that saying that Ronda, to a certain degree, is super frustrated about everything going on backstage, and they're kind of towing the line between it being real and not at this point. And it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out. Obviously, there's been that heavy rumor that Ronda is leaving right after WrestleMania. She's not even really advertised after WrestleMania, but that side of it is that she's leaving to potentially start a family on that one. So it could be a thing where she's gone for a year because she wants to have a child, or something on that one. Or they could just be completely working everything, because the contract that she has is supposed to go through 2021. She signed a 3-year contract. That's what reportedly was, that she signed a 3-year contract with WWE and is still with them through 2021. So those are the rumors that have really been going out there. And of course, again, they're rumors. But it's an interesting talking point based off of everything that they've been going through. So the last little piece of news that we're going to talk about this week was an interesting one. And yes, we are going to talk about AEW. AEW is coming in Double or Nothing's coming up here very soon, in just a couple of months, at the end of May. So there was a little piece of news that came out. I believe it was Monday. Was it Monday? Yeah, it was Monday, I believe. Let me just double check. Yeah, Monday, February 25th is when the news came out. This was reported by Wrestling Inc. So what was released is that AEW is facing initial refusal for several of their key trademarks. So they go through each of the trademarks in here. That the things that they are officially not getting the trademarks being accepted, and this apparently was given to them on February 19th. It was starting to be reported on the 25th, but they made the applications on November 5th for the AEW design and watermark, the for trademarks for All Elite Wrestling, AEW Double or Nothing, AEW All Out, Tuesday Night Dynamite, Fight for the Fallen, and as well as Change the Universe. So certain key trademarks are actually being potentially refused, or initial refusals. Apparently, AEW and Change the Universe were being initially refused based off of misclassifications of certain goods and services on the application, and significant payment of fees, or insignificant payment of fees. So it probably means they didn't either send in the proper payment for the trademark, for the applications, everything, because when you do a trademark, you do pay a fee for the application and sending it in there to have somebody look over it, everything on that one. These are the and apparently that is the reason for the rejection of AEW's trademark filings up forward. It was also made mention that they apparently they had certain misspellings in there, such as bandanas and yo-yos apparently had certain misspellings, and also being classified as a little bit too broad. I'm going through the article at this point in time to kind of get everything, a little bit, make sure I'm getting everything proper here. So also trademark, the trademark application for All Elite Wrestling that for AEW did not, or it must disclaim the word wrestling in it. It's other ways to go along with that, because it was not inherently distinctive to the extent that the word wrestling merely describes a feature or characteristic of AEW's goods and services, or specific to the or specifically the subject matter. So outside of having All Elite Wrestling into the actual trademark, they actually had to kind of I guess do the application in a different way. Similar to the trademarks for Tuesday Night Dynamite and Fight for the Fallen, contain wording that must be disclaimed by AEW. In the case of Tuesday Night Dynamite, they basically it's the observation of Tuesday night is not inherently distinctive to Tuesday night, referring to an evening on a particular day of the week. So you can't just trademark Tuesday night in your particular trademarks or anything, because I believe WWE's trademark isn't actually Monday Night Raw for their Monday night program. I think the trademark is for the Raw Wrestling Show, or WWE Raw, on that one. So maybe if they put it, instead of calling it just Tuesday Night Dynamite in the trademark, it's AEW Dynamite. If they get everything fully worked out. I don't know exactly how that one works. I'm not fully into what all the trademarking and everything, how it exactly works. It's a little bit interesting to see how everything works on that particular one. I haven't fully looked into it, but that's kind of where it comes off of it, that they can't necessarily trademark something with Tuesday night. They obviously couldn't just trademark the word dynamite, because dynamite means something else to go along with it. It seems like they would have to do AEW Dynamite on that one. With respect to and I'm kind of going through the article itself. With respect to the Fight for the Fallen, a disclaimer of all words in the trademark is required. The term "Fight for the Fallen" is commonly used as a promotional phrase to for fighting event, basically for fighting events, which will occur for fighting event will occur for fundraising purposes, to support fallen heroes. So that was kind of why that was refused on that one, which makes sense, honestly, because a lot of different people use the phrasing "fight for the fallen," so that one's kind of makes sense on it. In certain cases with these some of these, like that one's probably the one that makes the most sense. Obviously, maybe they just had some wordings that were misdone for the other ones, and those could be easily fixed or anything to go along with that. And then they would probably have to reapply for everything. So the other one that was refused was also AEW Double or Nothing trademark. So the actual pay-per-view. The application was initially refused based upon their, what was it? This is for the trademark, the acronym for the for our trademarking here in the U.S. The USPTO pointed to 75 existing trademarks, such as Double or Nothing Enterprises, which Double or Nothing Enterprises LLC in the music industry to that, and they deemed that to be too similar to that company that people would get confused about it. Kind of the reasoning behind WWF having to go to WWE a long time ago, back with the World Wildlife Fund. It was not really deemed everybody was kind of like both sides were kind of okay with everything until WWE fully went global at that time, and then that's when the initial issue happened. They fought it. They lost. WWE lost. Had to switch from WWF to WWE, and everything on that one. So they're deeming this one to be too similar, confusingly similar, given that you have AEW Double or Nothing, and then you have Double or Nothing Enterprises with the wording. So they deemed them too similar, so they decided not to allow for the trademark on that. That's an interesting one, because traditionally for trademarking something like that, it is distinctively different, and they are two different industries. Because obviously one is the music industry, and the other one is the wrestling industry, which you would deem them different and everything. But based off of the Double or Nothing being in the wording, you just have the AEW at the beginning, and then you have Enterprises for that music for the music company at the end. The USPTO decided that it would be confusing to the customer bases, so they decided to actually refuse the trademark. So that was the most interesting one out of them that was reported on Wrestling Inc. with this particular article. It did end, and I'll just read out the actual article after that particular portion. So, this one was also for AEW All Out. To go along with it. So as for AEW All Out, this application was initially refused because two other pending applications use the phrase All Out, and AEW will likely not be able to trademark AEW All Out if one of the other filings successfully completes first. For all the other ones, AEW will have 6 months to the date of USPTO's letter of initial refusal to respond. So basically, there's more to really wait for on that one. Again, that's kind of a blow to them, because they weren't going to get any of the trademarks basically that they were looking for. It seemed like everything got refused. So that is an initial blow for them. Obviously, Double or Nothing is still coming up in May, and like I said, they have according to that, they do have up to 6 months to respond because of the initial refusals. I imagine that's already getting responded on right now on that one. So in the terms of initial, like, everything has been kind of going good for AEW up until this point with those initial trademark refusals, but I feel like some of those are going to probably work out, and they're going to get the trademarks to certain things there. And I don't, like, it's an interesting article and it's an interesting little news bit, but I think in the end of the day, it's going to be something that's not going to, it's probably not going to hurt them all that much. And they've had pretty much a very good run so far in the terms of the decisions that they've been making and everything on that one going forward. I feel like AEW is, they're still going to be okay. They're still going to be okay. We're going to have the Double or Nothing show. It's not like they're forcing AEW to change the name of the show and change the name of the company or anything to go along on that one. It's just the initial applications were refused. Honestly, I think in a lot of particular situations, this probably happens a lot. I don't really follow too much on trademark sides of everything, but I feel like in a lot of cases of trademarks, they either based upon the application process, from what it seems like in this one, or many other different factors, like your initial filing or application filing probably gets refused more times than what we probably see or probably even hear about. It's just because, AEW starting up, they've had this big amount of hype on them. All of a sudden, all their trademarks get refused and everybody goes into an uproar. It's like, something tells me that they're not in like as big trouble as some people are initially saying there. on that one. I don't necessarily think this is... It's a blow, but I don't think it's as heavy as a blow as some other people are thinking about at that time. I feel like they're just going to be fine, and I feel like a good chunk of those trademarks they will end up getting in the end. So, now that we are off of the news, we are going to go into Raw, SmackDown, and NXT this week, and oh boy, these were some good shows. These were some fun shows, and Monday Night Raw was definitely an interesting one, and even based upon the beginning, because the beginning portion was absolutely fantastic. Love that. Love the beginning of the show, which we'll talk about here. Even if it wasn't for that being on the show, that I feel like this would have been still considered an extremely good Monday Night Raw. So we'll go ahead and start with it. Monday Night Raw started for February 25th, 2019. Started with Roman Reigns coming out to basically give the update. They advertised the update. Roman Reigns took his time getting down to the ring. Place did erupt into cheers, what you were kind of expecting. He basically high-fived everybody in the front row, coming down to the ring on all sides. He had a long embrace with his wife and his mother, who were there, and I believe Rock's mom was there as well, as support for the entire side of the family. He gets himself into the ring. He thanks the fans a lot. There was throughout there gave a very heartfelt speech, and to go through the entire speech is actually would not do it justice. It was very heartfelt. You could tell there was this like, here's a microphone, as much time as you want, do it. One fan, at least from what I could tell, and you could kind of hear it too, one fan tries to start a Roman sucks chant. The rest of the crowd just instantaneously starts booing it, and initially you can tell like Roman's like, and then you just see a smile on his face. It's like, oh, the fans are actually sticking up for me, and everything on that one. So continuing through his speech, and then at the end he announces what a lot of people were kind of imagining he was going to announce, but still hearing the news and hearing the words come from him was what I made it feel even better, because of him announcing his leukemia and everything back in October. It was kind of one of those like moments of, it's like we'd never there was a good chunk of the fan base, and he makes mention to that in his talk as well, in the promo speech, however you want to call it as well, that is like, people who liked me, people who didn't like me, they all of a sudden started, it's like, dude, this sucks. It's different from character Roman Reigns to person Joe, Joe, on that one. So again, big thanks. He announces he's in remission. Crowd goes huge pop, and it was great to hear that. It was absolutely great to hear that. Obviously, based upon people who were being very cynical about that one, still calling it a work or anything. That one gets me kind of riled up a little bit. People who are thinking that WWE would go that far. I think now let's be a little bit fair about this. There was probably a point in time in the Attitude era that they would have considered it. That they would have actually considered it. But now, in this day and age, with how hard it is to keep a secret, something like that, of it being a work or faked or anything, how hard that is to keep from other people at this point, the WWE would have to be like completely out of their mind to do it, based off of what they would end up losing. The stuff that they did would, basically doing that would ruin everything that they've done with Make-A-Wish, everything that they do with Susan G. Coleman, anything that they do to go along with it. And WWE is not going to give that stuff up, and they would not even, I can't fathom that they would be that's naive, out of touch. As much as we would like to say Vince McMahon's out of touch, I don't think he would be that far, it would go that far with everything. So, like, I do not fall on the aspect of it being a work in any way, shape, or form. When he said it, was like, wow. It gave that feeling. It's like, this feels more than just the wrestling show, everything to go along with it. It's like, hopefully he gets out there, and like he made mention there about all the support that he was getting throughout this entire thing. And it was great to hear something like that as well, that, you know, the fans were giving the support, everything on that one, and how much he felt humbled and thanked the fans for doing that. Even to the people is like, you know, you may not have liked Roman Reigns, but you didn't want to see something horrible happen to the man who plays it, on that one. And it was a very nice, touching moment. But obviously, and you know, obviously certain amounts of people would be cynical based upon the fact that he came back in a 4-month time span, which they did put out. There was a lot of things that were put out there for people who researched and everything about leukemia treatments and everything along with that. They even make mention to, we can even make mention to a story that was put out there from another podcaster. His name is the Solomon Monster Sounds Off podcast, Jason Solomon. His mother went through leukemia, who unfortunately she had passed away last year, and he talks about that on his podcast to great detail, everything on that one. It's a very touching story as well. And he makes mention, it's like, you know, even though like you go through treatment cycles with the chemo, everything on that one, and I didn't do too much research into it myself. I had a family friend that also went through breast cancer. I saw what, you know, chemo can do for them, but each person in general reacts differently, either in the terms of a hair loss or muscle mass, or what their abilities of being able to do what they do on a daily basis. It's just different for certain people. Like my family friend member, her name's Ann Cordenbrock, who went through breast cancer. She ended up losing her hair, but she didn't lose like her spirit to do anything. She was still going out there and doing what she would normally do. She would still go to, because my family was big into bowling. She would still do her bowling, and she would do all the different things there. And, you know, it did wear her down. Absolutely. And I'm sure Roman himself got worn down, but it's kind of one of those little stories that you throw out there. It's like each person reacts differently to the chemo treatment. They make mention to keep to the leukemia thing with on Solomon. So he gives the story of, you know, that she went into remission after the first treatment, but they were in a 4-month treatment cycle, and it's like an antibiotic. Even though you technically got rid of what it was in this period of time, but you still got to do the treatment all the way through. So that's probably what is happening there, is that he was in a certain period of treatment time. He went into remission during that time, finished it, and then obviously there's time for his immune system to rebuild as well. So with leukemia, the reports that were out there for for everyone who had done research, apparently it can go into remission like on the first treatment, or like generally within a month to 4 months. But obviously there's a treatment cycle as well in there. And then the immune system has to rebuild over 21 to 28 days. So it's interesting to see when he went into remission and how his treatment cycle was, and like where he would be for the immune system. Now Roman showed up. Yeah, he didn't actually, it's like, he didn't, you know, have a lot of muscle mass loss, or the hair was still there. And then again, it falls under each person reacts to it differently on that one. And there was a great thing that was put out there on Twitter. I don't have everything fully up there, but they put it out there. It was called Leukemia Cares, or Leukemia. Yeah, it was called Leukemia Cares. That put it out there, and they put everything saying it's like, each person doesn't necessarily the time frame for the hair loss, for chemo treatments, muscle mass loss, everything on that is completely different to each person. And in Roman's case, it reacted in the terms of any of that other stuff, reacted completely differently and wasn't affected on that one. So there is scientific evidence out there of that to be the case for people who are being cynical. I'm not necessarily being cynical of that one. Like I said, I would not imagine WWE wanting to go there. And the person who plays Roman Reigns, Joe, on this, Joe Owane, on this, he doesn't even seem like a person who would want to even go through with that on that one. And yes, on the show he does come out and do a run-in, but if you really take a look at what he did during that entire segment, it was a couple of Superman punches and a spear. He didn't really take a bump in there. I would imagine if he's going to be doing anything, he's not really going to be taking bumps at this point in time to go along with it. Like I said, hearing the news was absolutely fantastic to hear. It was great to hear that. And again, nothing but the best for Roman on this one. And there's not much more I can really say about it. Not much more I can really say about it on this. Obviously, Seth Rollins at the end does come out. They have a big embrace after he made the announcement. Apparently, the rumor backstage is that they wanted to have Dean go out there as well, but he kind of, based up either of it being based upon story or anything like that, he apparently was like, no, they didn't have him go out there. Which we saw later in the show anyway, when Dean Ambrose initially came out, he wanted to challenge Drew McIntyre to a no disqualification match. He interrupted Elias after Lacey Evans interrupted Elias. So again, we're back to the full interruptions. He did give dirty deeds to Elias, and apparently the match was going to go down. Go down later in the show. It was Dean Ambrose and Drew McIntyre. The one thing about this one, and everybody kind of points this out, and I will too, the factor that Dean Ambrose wore 2 belts. Either it plays off to an aspect of him being a little unhinged or anything like that, or he had the forethought to have 2 belts because he figured he would use it as a weapon. 1, use it as a weapon. 1, 2, he wanted to make sure his pants stayed up, so he had 2 belts. That's an interesting little note in there. Elias does eventually come down. He attacks Dean Ambrose when he was about to give Dirty Deeds to the Dirty Deeds DDT to Drew McIntyre on the steel steps. This does allow for Drew to hit the Claymore kick and get the win. I thought that was a pretty good match. This is where Bobby Lashley and Baron Corbin came back out. After the match, they start the 4-on-1 beatdown on Dean Ambrose. Seth Rollins comes out with a chair. Roman Reigns joins them. They make the save. They get everybody out of there. Again, Roman comes in, does a few Superman punches, 1 spear. I feel like they're gonna probably try to do the whole aspect of crawl, walk, and then eventually run. Like, there is a rumored match, an 8-man tag match that's going to have Roman at Fastlane. At this point, I don't know if it's going to be the case, but if it is going to be an 8-man tag, makes sense, because I would imagine they wouldn't have Roman doing much in the terms of a longer match or anything to go along with that. Yes, he's in remission, but he just went also through 4 months of treatments. to go along with it, and is probably not up to a full match or even doing much in a tag match, so they'll probably protect it by having it be an 8-man. That's the rumored match. It's supposed to be like an 8-man. It'll probably be Elias, Bobby Lashley, Baron Corbin, Drew McIntyre up against, the rumor is all of the Shield, based off of what they did here, because you have both of them look back at Dean, and then Dean kind of gives like, okay, type of thing to him. But it's also rumored that Braun Strowman will be in that match as well. So that will be interesting to see what goes out about that one. That will be an interesting one. Also on the show, like I said, I thought this was actually a very good show based off of what they did here. You had Aleister Black and Ricochet going up against the Revival, which Aleister Black and Ricochet do pick up the victory in the match. It was good, but it was rather quick, and I feel like to a certain degree in certain areas they were kind of speeding up a lot of different things in the entire show. This was definitely one of them, because it felt like this match could have probably gone on longer, but it did go rather quick. Aleister Black gets the victory with the Black Mass Roundhouse Kick. You had a backstage interview with Baron Corbin, and Charlie Caruso brings up the past of what he had said about Roman Reigns. Corbin denies everything that he says, like, and this is the thing that they are having the interviewers do more, and I love it because they don't sound like just robots regurgitating everything. It's like Charlie goes like, well, we have the footage, and Corbin's like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're saying about it. You know what? I just hope me and it's like, and he tries to play off it being big, is like, you know what, for Roman's sake, he better not run into me at any point in time. That was a interesting interview, and like I said, they're having the interviewers be a little bit more forceful. They're not as much as pushovers as they used to be on that one, and I actually kind of like that, because like, hey, here's video footage of you that was just saying what you denied you said, type of thing. I liked little snippets on that one. You had the Riot Squad going up against Ronda Rousey and Natalya. This was actually a pretty good match. You do get some back and forth, but the main aspect on this one is that Becky Lynch shows up in the crowd. A security guard initially tries to stop her from going in. It's like, no, stop. No, just stop. And then Becky just clocks him in the face, and then gets in there. She attacks Natalya. Ronda goes after Becky. There's a big pull apart. The police arrest Becky. And during the time that they are arresting Becky, like, Fit Finlay has to almost like tackle Ronda to stop her from trying to get, like, this was good. This was good stuff, because it, like Ronda was giving all of the like trouble in the world to Fit Finlay and the other security people trying to hold her back from going after Becky Lynch. The entire time also you have Becky Lynch in the going up is like, be careful of the hands, because I'll need that to raise the title. And then also repeating is like, you should arrest them because they robbed me. This was great stuff, and it continued on after the commercial break. You had Ronda and the others initially helping Natalya to the back, but Ronda eventually takes the belt, storms back to the ring, calls out Vince. Stephanie's the one that comes out, and Ronda wants Becky Lynch reinstated. And this was it was an interesting route that they're going with this particular one, because, you know, Ronda says, I'm at my wit's end, just reinstate her, get into the match, we can do a triple threat, everything on that one. Okay, Charlotte can still be there, it's like, just make it a triple threat. I want to fight Becky in some way, shape, or form. to go along with it. Stephanie says no, and then Ronda goes like, think about what this means for the WrestleMania main event, about your children, your daughters. And then Stephanie's like, no, it's a hard no, we can't do it, we're not going to reinstate her. And then Ronda demands it. This is where Stephanie tries to stand up to Ronda, basically going, because the entire time, based off of what they've done, Stephanie McMahon's kind of always been afraid of Ronda, where she's not necessarily afraid of anybody else in there. And then she goes up, it's like, no one is bigger than the WWE. And then Ronda's like, I'm not just another employee. I don't need this. I don't need the WWE. I'm set for life. I do this because I enjoy it, but I'm at my wit's end with this one. And you won't give that one. And then she goes to leave. And she makes mentions like, Vince says he's the man, he makes the tough decisions. Well, you need to make the right one now. She leaves the belt. She takes the belt, lays it at Stephanie's feet, and walks off. Stephanie looks absolutely perplexed on this one. And this was actually really well done. I felt like this was really well done based off of Stephanie's reaction. It was just not like just a scowl or anything. It's like, Ronda's a key point of the division and actually making it a main event level match that not only that WWE fans would want to see based off of the story that they're playing, but the casual the whole best for business type of thing that they play off of this. And I love the reaction to the back as well, because you have Stephanie and Triple H walking in the back, and you just have Stephanie staring at the title with not only like a perplexed but almost worried look on her face. It's like, what did this mean? Type of thing about it. And I thought this was really well played. I thought this came off great. Like I said, the story that they've been telling with this one is actually really good. You have Charlotte just being Charlotte. Ronda and Becky are going back and forth and everything. And it feels like every decision that ends out being made kind of ruins something else. And in this case, they're playing it off as like, did Ronda just forfeit the title and did, like, no main event or anything like that? Because they're trying to play it up as it being bigger than like it's the most important thing, which the storyline has definitely come off as the most important storyline, but they're playing it off as like, if Ronda's not in it, then they don't main event WrestleMania. And then that's where you get that worried look and everything. And I did like how Alexa Bliss later in the show is like, hey, if you need somebody to replace Ronda, I'll do it, type of thing. Later on that one, which we'll talk about in a brief moment. You had Jinder Mahal also in the ring. He cuts a promo on not being invited to Ric Flair's party, and he challenges anyone that was invited to come out and answer his challenge. Kurt Angle's the one that answers. This was a rather quick match with Kurt Angle picking up the victory with the ankle lock, and then he suplexed the Singh brothers after the match. Not really much to talk about. Not really much to talk about on that particular one. You had Alexa Bliss with the Moment of Bliss segment. She says bye to Ronda. She's like, I'll replace Ronda, everything on that one. She brings out her guest, who is Finn Balor. Alexa's playing this like thing where she's being extremely flirty with every like male that comes up onto the show, talking about like Finn's abs, everything to go along with it. She even cuts a line saying, it's like, if you show me your abs, I'm gonna, and then Leo Rush's music hits, and this is the good thing, because she makes mention to it at the beginning. It's like, if it doesn't get interrupted again, type thing. And then when Leo Rush interrupts, her reaction is just great. She just takes the note cards she has and just chucks them. It's like, Why do I even bother? Type thing. I feel like those are actually really good reactions to what they're doing on those. Leo comes out. He says Lashley's the one who deserves to be IC champion, not Finn Balor. And Finn basically says, well, if he wants to challenge me so badly, he knows where to find me, and he can do that. And it gets to the point of, it's like, well, he's busy with Braun Strowman tonight. He can't come and ask you or anything on that one. And eventually setting up to where Finn's like, well, I mean, you're out here. Why aren't you challenging me? I mean, I did pin you to get the IC title. Why aren't you the one asking for an IC title shot? And then, but like both of them kind of goat Leo into it. And Leo tries to talk himself out. It's like, I see what you guys are trying to do here. And they keep going. They keep going. They keep going. And eventually led to Leo going like, okay, sure, fine. I'll have a match with you. I'm going to go get ready. And then apparently Alexa Bliss got power again somehow. And it's like, no, your match is next. And then they have their match. They even do a little bit where it's like, okay, at least give me a proper entrance. And he gets about halfway down to the ring, and then they hit Finn Balor's music again. Not a bad segment. Not a bad segment. It's mostly the reactions. It's mostly the reactions on it, because based off of everything else that they would have done in typical style, I don't think this would have been that good, but it's based off their reactions to everything. I thought it came off really good. So up next was Finn Balor going up against Lio Rush. I thought this was a really good match. Lio Rush does work over the knee. He does go for the midnight hour, which is his frog splash. He does miss that, but he works over the knee a good chunk of the match. But eventually, towards the end, Finn was able to fight off everything. Hits the 1916, which looked absolutely brutal, and then hits the coup de grace to pin Lio Rush. And yeah, it was a good match. It was definitely a good match. Wasn't overly long on that one. And they did do the aspect of working Finn Balor's knee throughout the match as well in there. Again, it was still fast-paced to its own degree, but it wasn't overly fast-paced. You had Tucker backstage, which he doesn't go by Tucker Knight. He's walking backstage. The Ascension come up to him, and they start just poking fun at Otis. And it's like, and Tucker's like, Otis isn't going to be happy about this. Everything on that one. I forget what they said, but they're just poking fun at him throughout the entire thing. So eventually Otis comes up. Tucker's like, this is what these guys have been saying about you. It's like, really? And he does it in the over-exaggerated type of thing. And then he just tackles both of them. And is like, and this is why you don't mess with heavy machinery. He does it in like the Otis style voice and everything with it. Not a bad segment. I guess that's going to lead to some match between them as well, which kind of plays off of what they've been making mention throughout their little stories, that Otis is has Tucker's back for the in-ring side, but apparently like Otis is the backup for Otis, or not Otis, but Tucker's like the backup for Otis outside of the ring to go along with it. So that's an interesting one. You have Lashley running down Leo in gorilla position, asking him if he can trust him. It's like, you're supposed to go out there and get an Intercontinental title shot for me, and you ended up getting an Intercontinental title shot for you, and you lost. What the heck? And asked him if he can trust him, and Lashley's like, they're definitely going on a side here where Leo's probably going to turn babyface towards the end on this one. And again, little intriguing story bits that kind of saying like, oh, so this is where they're going, and this is where it feels like it's going. And again, something that I thought was pretty good. So it was supposed to lead up to Lashley going up against Braun Strowman. Lashley attacks Strowman before the match. They do brawl back and forth for a bit. And then eventually the ref just gives up trying to start because the match hadn't started yet. It eventually goes to the outside. Strowman gains control, does the shoulder tackle run to both Lashley and Rush, and that was pretty much it. Nothing really much to that one. You had a Seth Rollins interview backstage. Seth Rollins overwhelmed with everything going on through the night, promises to win the Universal title at WrestleMania, and said that he was going to go celebrate with Roman. This was right before the Drew McIntyre Dean Ambrose match. Obviously, they came out there to make the save there. Up next, you had Bayley going up against Nia Jax, and this was actually good. This was actually a really good match. These two put on a pretty good match here. They do make, and this was one of the reasons why it ended up being a good match, because they made mention to the amount of matches that they had even back from NXT time, that both of them kind of know each other to a certain degree, and you saw that in little snippets where each one was kind of countering each other. Like Nia Jax tried to go for a leg drop, Bayley got out of the way. Bayley went for a knee drop, which Nia got out of the way, but then misses an elbow drop. There. Eventually, Nia gets Bayley caught in the tree of woe, and then just does a body splash to her, like demolishing her. Sasha's checking on her in the corner. Nia goes to grab Sasha. This causes enough of distraction where Bayley hits a running knee to Nia, knocking her down and hitting a elbow drop off the top rope to pick up the victory. As Tamina was rushing after Sasha, she got run into the steps, and Bayley picked up the victory. Like I said, it was a good match. It's an interesting one that they went with Bayley going over in this case, because you have Nia and Tamina with the tag title shot at Fastlane, and you would imagine that now they technically have a Raw to basically put Nia and Tamina as the threat, or more than likely going to win type scenario in there, because you would imagine that they are going to keep those tag titles on Sasha Banks and Bayley for quite a bit of time, and then based off of what we saw later this week, you would imagine that as well. Up next was the main event segment of the night. Now, Bayley and Nia Jax was technically the main event match of the night. This was the main event segment. It was the Ric Flair birthday celebration. They have many of the wrestlers up on the stage. They bring out, Triple H and Stephanie come out, and they bring out the special guests. They had Ric Flair, Ric Flair we'll talk about in a brief moment, but you had Shawn Michaels come out. He was sporting the NXT hat. He's just like doing his own thing. You can tell this guy does his own thing with it. You have Ricky the Dragon Steamboat coming out. He was doing like chops to everybody, and the sell that Seth Rollins gave for the Ricky Steamboat chop was absolutely fantastic. Kurt Angle comes out. He talks with a few of the people up at the ring. Sting comes out, and they bring out Sting next, which they've been kind of showing throughout the night. He walks right by with Bobby Roode. He walks by, looks at Bobby Roode, is like, wow, I'm shot. It was almost like he talks with him a brief moment. He goes over to No Way Jose and gives a talk. He handshakes Braun and walks down to the ring. They have a video package for Ric Flair. They had a specially made custom belt, which it looks like they have each of the dates of his title wins on the belt of the custom world heavyweight title that they made. And then they go to introduce Ric Flair and bring him out there to have the birthday celebration. They had cake and everything in the ring. And Ric Flair doesn't come out. And then they go to the back, and then lo and behold, you see a figure dragging a cameraman. And then all of a sudden you get the close-up of the cameraman. And you can tell beforehand as well. But as soon as it was the full confirmation once you got to the main the main camera shot, which was the close-up, and it was Batista dragging a cameraman to what was Ric Flair's locker room. He looks at the cameraman and is like, stay right there. Goes in, you hear a few like thuds and everything, and then he opens the door and he drags out a beaten down Ric Flair, and he basically says, do I have your attention now, Hunter? And does a loud huh, or like a lot more menacing than that too. It was absolutely fantastic with what they did, and it looks like we're going to get Batista and Triple H at WrestleMania. Based off of everything they did here, Triple H runs to the back to check on Ric Flair as they go off the air, and that was absolutely a fantastic segment. Like, there was rumor mill going about that Batista was there, but they were going to probably just play it off as like, oh, they're going to do like some little teasing. He's going to be part of the celebration and everything. Well, he was technically part of the celebration, but they went major and magma about this being Batista versus Triple H more than likely at WrestleMania time. And I thought the way that they executed was absolutely fantastic. The only weird thing about it was the wide angle camera shot of Batista dragging a cameraman. It would have, I feel like it would have been even more interesting if you just had it from the angle of the cameraman being dragged to the actual area there. But I mean, overall it was great. I thought this was a great little segment, and a good way of setting up everything for WrestleMania on that one. So let's roll into SmackDown for February 26, 2019. They were starting the show with the contract signing for Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston. Shane and Stephanie go through all of Kofi Kingston's accomplishments. They bring him out there. He's high-fiving the fans across the ring, everything, like the crowd's massively behind Kofi. He cuts a promo about getting the opportunity at Fastlane. He's going to win that WWE title at Fastlane. He goes to sign the contract. Vince comes out right as he's about to sign. Kofi just signed the contract. If your name's on there, they can't do anything about it, apparently, because, you know, it's contract. And Vince goes off and says, it's like, I need box office. I need box office. So, Kofi, I'm replacing you with Kevin Owens, and the New Day is going absolutely furious on this one, and it just leads you to believe, and I love this one because they show that they worked the fans again, because the fans were absolutely furious about this, and I like it on that one because it's like, yeah, if I was in the crowd, I'd be booing that too, because I like being in there. It's like, okay, play up to it. If you're enjoying yourself, you play up to everything, you boo as much as possible, you cheer as much as possible, whatever, on that one. But, you know, they got the fans absolutely furious about it. And just, and like, I'm thinking in my head, it's like, is Kofi actually going to get this at WrestleMania? Or, like, are they going to do something where he gets into Fastlane and it becomes a triple threat or anything to go along with that? But it's like, oh, based off of what they're doing with this story, it's like Kofi's getting that title at some point, just based off of it. Or he's going to get the bigger match at WrestleMania or something to go along with that. You had Kevin Owens backstage. He makes mention to not fully knowing or like making mention to how Steph and Shane had nothing to do with this. And they looked perplexed about it as well. It's like, what are, like, if you saw it out there, it's like, Vince, what are you doing? And it's like, what are you seriously doing with this? Which makes you lead to believe, like, what type of storyline are they going to run with this? Which could be like almost like a power struggle type thing between them, but they play it off as like Vince is doing like all these weird things and replacing people for big matches after, you know, either Triple H or his daughter or his son has set up something, and he's like, we're supposed to be in this together. And it's like Vince like, no, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do this. And probably gonna lead to some kind of power struggle thing down the line. At least that's what I feel on that one. That'll be an interesting thing to see where they go about. Like I said, there was a backstage segment. Like Kevin Owens makes mention, it's like Stephanie and Shane didn't really know about this. It's like he's perplexed as well. It's like Vince, I mean, like, come on, he headbutted the guy and did a frog splash to him and beat him down not too long ago. But he goes off as like, you know what? You know, he believes that Kofi deserves to have a shot, but obviously, hey, I can't pass up this shot either. It's the WWE title. And he wants to team with Kofi that night. Steph and Shane, not happy at all. You have the Bar going up against the Hardy Boys, which was initially scheduled to be Johnny Gargano going up against Cesaro, but they changed it to the Bar versus the Hardy Boys. I thought this was a actually pretty good match. Matt Hardy looks to be in very good shape, because this is the first time he's been back on TV since leaving with the back injury and that he had quite a while back. Nice to see Matt back in the ring. The Hardys pick up the victory. I thought this was a decent enough match. You had Ricochet and Aleister Black backstage, and they were kind of, you know, they were making mention that they had another match that night. They did advertise them versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev. Lana comes up and basically approaches them. It's like, and not in the whole aspect of them not being taken seriously, or Lana not taking them seriously, like, you're nothing special and you're just ordinary. And she looks at Ricochet and says, you're nothing special and you're just ordinary, over to Aleister Black. And of course they respond, everything on that one, setting up for the match a little bit later in the night. You had R-Truth come out. R-Truth, I've mentioned it before, I'll mention it again. R-Truth is a freaking treasure. This guy is great. He's been great for God knows how long. I think people are finally fully recognizing it here. So he comes out because, and it's funnier because he's technically older than Cena, but he comes out and says that when I grow up, I want to be like John Cena, and like, I'm gonna do this in honor for him. You know what? In honor of him, we're gonna bring back the U.S. Open Challenge. And he comes, an event, it's like, so he opens it up to, like, who's going to come out here and accept the challenge for the U.S. title? Andrade comes out. It's like, okay, so it looks like we're going to get Andrade versus R-Truth. Like, at halfway down the ring, Rey Mysterio's music hits, and this was absolutely fantastic. Because I loved it. Because Rey Mysterio's music hits. He doesn't do, like, a walk or anything. He just sprints down, elbows Aleister Black, dashes into the ring, or not Aleister, but Andrade, and dashes into the ring to beat him in the ring to technically accept the challenge. Andrade gets in there, and they're both going like, I'm the one who was out here first. No, I wasn't. No, I was in the ring first. And they're arguing over who was the person who was going to challenge R-Truth. And R-Truth goes like, whoa. In moments like this, I ask myself, what would John Cena do? And then Carmella's like, he would probably take on both of them. And you just got that perplexed look from Truth. It's like, really? Because I was going to say, no, thank you. No, thank you. And then he goes like, really? He would take on both? Man, John Cena's brave. All right, in honor of that, I'm going to take you both on. And they had the match. I thought this was a good match. You did get a good chunk of it being Andrade and Rey Mysterio. Towards the end, Rey was going for a 619 on both R-Truth and Andrade. He hits Andrade, but R-Truth gets out of the way. He was able to counter into a roll-up and pin Rey Mysterio to pick up the victory. Andrade does try to attack Rey afterwards, but Rey does end up chasing him off. R-Truth is a treasure. I love it. Even even at the age that he's in at this point in time, he's still overly athletic. His comedic timing is absolutely perfect. And he's actually good in the ring, good on the mic. R-Truth is a treasure and absolutely fantastic. Charlotte comes out afterwards and cuts a promo, basically saying that Ronda and Becky fear her, she fears nothing, and that she is going to show up on Monday Night Raw and be crowned Raw Women's Champion. Just assuming that that's going to be the case. Vince is just going to give me the title on Monday Night Raw. After this, we had Aleister Black and Ricochet going up against Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev. This was, again, a good match. Not much to really talk about on this one. Again, it was a rather quick match, much like the match on Monday, with Aleister Black and Ricochet going over. After this, we had a AJ Styles interview. He talks about having to pick himself back up and step up to the next challenge. Randy Orton comes into the shot, and it's like, well, there's your next challenge. It's Randy Orton. It's like, really? And I think he makes mentions like, really, this is the house that AJ Styles built. Okay. And then, so leading to them probably having their feud coming up here. You had Lacey Evans come out and leave again. So that's what they're still doing with that. And then it ended, SmackDown ended with Kofi Kingston going up, teaming up with Kevin Owens and going up against Daniel Bryan and Rowan. I did like what Kofi Kingston did here. They didn't really play up to any of the New Day stuff. He kind of just walked to the ring. Xavier and Big E kind of just left. Everything to go along with that. I thought this was a good match. A lot of back and forth. Kevin Owens even doing like a bit more of a little bit of a face thing. Like he's obviously coming, like they make him come off as heel because of the factor that he, he's replacing Kofi Kingston and everything on that. But he plays off as, like, I want to team up with you. I feel like you deserve this. I can't pass up the opportunity. I feel actually kind of bad about this. And both of them end up working as a team throughout the entire thing. They eventually get rid of Rowan. Kevin Owens and Daniel Bryan were the legal people, and Kevin Owens picks up the victory, hitting a stunner. That's right, a stunner picked up a victory now that wasn't from Stone Cold. And it was actually a pretty good match. Very enjoyable SmackDown as well. Easy to go through. Not as eventful as Raw, but still a good show. Still a good show. So this leads us to WWE NXT on February 27th, 2019. The show started with Johnny Gargano coming out, talking about him losing the North American title. Talking about how some fans will chant Johnny Failure. He prefers to be called Johnny Champion. It still feels like he's Johnny Champion. He gets interrupted by Tommaso Ciampa, who said basically is like, before he got interrupted by Ciampa, it's like Johnny Gargano makes mention, it's like, I've actually realized something. That's when Ciampa comes out. And it's like he makes mention, it's like, the thing you realize is that we both need each other. And by both need each other, you need me. Obviously, because he still has the NXT title. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa together, they win. Gargano on his own, he loses. He offered to help him last week, but you refused and you lost. And it's like, you know what? You want gold? Let's go after the tag titles and be part of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Gargano accepts. DIY is back, I guess, on that one. So technically DIY is back. You had a Ricochet interview backstage talking about he and Aleister Black, what they had done on Raw, and that they were probably going into Ricochet was going to talk up to Regal to get them in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, and they have some unfinished business with the Undisputed Era. You have them, and then you go outside. Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano are leading. They run into Candice LeRae, and this is the great thing, because as soon as, like, you saw Johnny Gargano with like a pep in his step and everything, and then he kind of just slouches over when he sees his wife there, and she runs him down. She's not having anything of it, not happy that they're back together. It's like, I hope you know what you're doing. It's like, I've got a plan, and she just storms off. Up next, you had Vanessa Bourne and Aaliyah going up against Tainara Conti and Azalea Lee. I thought this was an okay match. And yeah, I thought this was actually an okay match. It's good to see them doing some more with the tag teams on the women's side. It seems like they're forming some more tag teams down there. Based off of what we saw a little bit later in the night, this is actually a good thing to kind of show in here. Vanessa Bourne and Aaliyah pick up the victory on this one. You had an interview with Velveteen Dream, talking about his, winning the North American title in the Experience. And he gets interrupted by the Undisputed Era. Cole is basically challenging Velveteen Dream for a North American title match. And Dream's like, big talk or big mouth coming from such a little man, because like Velveteen Dream towers over them on that, so it kind of makes sense. And Dream eventually says, like, I don't have time for them, or I don't have time for this, and leaves. You have a backstage segment where I believe, was it Dasha? I forget exactly who it was, but you had them talk. You had the interviewer talking backstage. It looked like she was going to try to get an exclusive from Regal. She was outside the office talking about the Dusty Rhodes Classic. All of a sudden, you hear a commotion. It ends up being Bianca Belair and Io Shirai arguing over who's supposed to get the next title shot. Eventually, it does get announced that Io Shirai and Bianca Belair were going to fight each other in 2 weeks to find out who's going to be facing Shayna Baszler next. They get pulled apart here by the coaches and everything, and I thought it was a pretty good segment. With that one, I thought that came off pretty good. You had Dominik Dijakovic going up against Keith Lee, and this was fantastic, and they left you wanting more, and that's what they're supposed to do here. Each side got to do some very, very good athletic moves for guys of their size, because Dijakovic is a 6'7" dude, and he's doing moonsaults and flips and crazy athletic feats. I love the fact that they had a monkey flip spot in there where Dijakovic was going to give a monkey flip to Keith Lee, but he flips and lands on his feet, and you get that shot of like Dijakovic just realizing, it's like, oh, he survived, oh crap, type moment. They continue fighting through, and it eventually ends after Dijakovic hits a springboard moonsault to the outside. Both of them are unable to make the 10 count. It was a double count out. I thought this was a good match, and it left you wanting more. So, and they showed afterwards that they still want to fight and everything to go along with that. They do give the last 4 teams of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, which was the Undisputed Era, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. They do use hashtag DIY in there as well. You also had, did they announce Oni and Lorcan there? I forget. I know Oni and Lorcan are in the tournament as well. I think they announced them there. And then also no, we may mention the Undisputed Era, but Aleister Black and Ricochet will be part of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, and that will be starting, I think, next week. Yes, next week. So this leads right before the main event. We had another segment. We did have another moment, because guess who showed up in NXT? It was Sasha Banks and Bayley. Sasha Banks comes out first. Crowd erupts. Bayley comes out, another big eruption for that one. They come out to cut a promo about wanting to defend the tag team titles. They make mention to the last time that they were in an NXT ring, talking about the Iron Woman match for takeover respect. I like the aspect that that there's like, yeah, people remember that, and Bailey goes like, Izzy remembers that one, and Sasha's like, uh-oh, and then Bailey has to go, is like, no, don't worry about it, she's okay, it's good, don't worry about it, because of what Sasha did to Izzy during that particular match to make her cry in there. So that was a nice little touch in there. They make mention to wanting to defend the tag team titles in all places, which includes NXT. So that was kind of confirmed on their first night, the Raw after Elimination Chamber, but it's confirmed a little bit more on that particular one that they are going to more likely defend those tag team titles in all places. This leads to the main event of the night, which was Mia Yim going up against Shayna Baszler, and this was a very good match. So Shayna injures her hand early on in the match, but ends out eventually going after Mia Yim for with the past leg injury that she had as well. So Shayna's working over the leg while Mia is like taking advantage with the hand in different areas, and you have a lot of good back and forth in this particular match. Mia really selling that leg injury pretty hard throughout the match as well, but she also but again, like, the hand injury plays up to Shayna because she wants to lock in the Carefuna clutch, but Mia's able to get herself out of it, grabbing the hand and bending it and everything, which, again, a lot of back and forth to go along with it. Eventually, Shayna gets her in the Carefuna clutch again, and Mia goes to go after the hand again, but this time around, Shayna locks in where she basically locks down the hands with putting her leg over the arm and forcing Mia to eventually tap out, or actually I think she passed out in this case in that one, and Shayna Baszler takes the victory. This was a very good match. It was very entertaining, very technical, but also a little high flying every now and again. And the way that Shayna had to get the Carefuna clutch on this time was a good way of going as well. On that one, it was kind of like on that level what she did to have to lock in the Carefuna clutch to Ember Moon, where she didn't have full use of one arm, so she had the Carefuna clutch in with one arm, but instead of having to grasp with the other arms because she couldn't do it, she grabbed her hair back then. It was kind of like that type of situation again, and I thought it was a very entertaining match. And again, NXT, a very good show. And with that being said, this is a little bit of a longer episode. A little bit longer of an episode than I thought it was originally going to be, but I think we got through everything properly this time on that one. So that is everything I have for you guys this week. So with that being said, I thank you guys for tuning in. And again, we'll see you guys next week with a review for Fastlane. We will have simulations to Fastlane as well. And I hope you guys have a great week ahead. So peace out, take care, and have a great rest of your day.